We got a lot to talk about tonight, so let's
Ooh.
play that music, shall we? Ooh.
We get really excited. You can't see us in the back room, but we're dancing to the theme
Yeah, we
song.
always just sit here and dance obnoxiously to our song because why not? Right? Why not incorporate a little cringe into the universe? Speaking of cringe, I had a funny conversation with my students the other day because I had them read an article about like millennials, and I was like, oh, most of you are Gen Z, so I'm curious about your perspective on like what this person has to say. And we had like this huge conversation about like millennials and cringe culture.
Oh, like how millennials ruin everything and how everybody hates millennials.
we we're the sad emo kid generation.
We really are.
That could be a whole episode that we do, but it was, suffice it to say, a very amusing conversation. Although I will say that we learned that Gen Z and millennials do have a lot of intersections, let's just say, with things that they
That's
experience.
okay.
So
Gen Z is just as cringe as we are, and we love our Gen Z
every
little kid sisters and brothers.
right, every generation has its own cringe, right?
Right.
So we do have some people in the chat already. We have Arby. Hello. We have
Hello.
Tiffany Gray. It's good to see both of you. Hope that you're both doing well. It feels like it's been like a month since we've done an episode, but it's only
I
been
know
like,
it's only been like a couple weeks, but oh my goodness.
right. So what have you been doing? How have you been?
If you saw my water channel, I pierced my own ears. I pierced my own
Mm.
ears. So they have these kits on Amazon where you can buy them and you just go boop and you pierce your own ears.
Ari
And it
told me
just
about that, and I was just like, I don't know if I could stab my ears. I'd pass out.
I was like, it was so easy. You literally just go boop and it just goes through your ear and it just like you just pierce your ears and you just throw the little thing away. My sister was like, I hope you're not going to pierce like your nose and stuff. And I'm like, no, you just pierce your ears. Just a little piercing kit.
I could see you with a septum piercing. I could. I really could.
A little cowbell.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Oh, Majin's beard is here. It's good to see you.
Hello,
My
Margaret.
Lincoln Park. Yeah, I felt like I don't know. I felt like wearing a Lincoln Park shirt tonight. So,
Ooh.
it's funny that I mentioned that. So I finally did all of my laundry the other day after like a month of like. I realized that I have way too many clothes. I have a whole stack of clothes on my top shelf of my closet that is squished against the ceiling, and it's all band tees and Godzilla shirts.
Absolutely. Got to have the Godzilla shirts.
Just a whole column of
By
band
the
tees.
way, congratulations to Godzilla on the Oscar win.
uh, I'm fairly sure I cried over it that night. Godzilla -1 won an Oscar for visual effects, which is a full circle moment for Godzilla, considering so many people have always made Godzilla the butt of the joke because they were like, man in suit, which is now a very much time honored special effect tradition, you know.
Speaking of wins, don't you have a personal win that you want to talk about?
I do have a personal win that I want to talk about. I got promoted at work. I am now tenured, and it is very surreal
Yay.
because I don't know, tenure, kind of like retirement, seemed like one of those things that just wouldn't exist for our generation. And now that I've gotten it, I'm like, oh my God, like that's a very significant sense of security as a teacher, right? So
Mhm.
it just it
I'm
made
so
me feel,
proud of you. You're doing so good.
thank you. I appreciate you. Beyond celebrating that, this week I've been working on a lot of work this week, but also Britt and I just set up our seeds for the season. So P.S. everybody, there will be a new stint of my garden therapy video series this year.
Ooh, exciting. I love seeing your garden therapy.
I know. It's like a lot of people don't watch them, but the few who do, I know, really enjoy them, and I really enjoy just documenting my gardening experience. So
I love watching all your videos.
oh, likewise. I feel like we're each other's biggest fans.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I am a big fan of yours.
I am proudly one of your biggest fans, Ari. And if anybody wants to fight me for that title, they're more than welcome to try. Anyway. So, looking at the comments, Arpy asks, where do you get your band shirts? I get a lot of them either from Hot Topic or Rue 21. Tiffany
Someone's
says,
drinking water.
oh my gosh, Tiffany, yes. Yay. It's good to stay hydrated, right? Majin's Beard, I have so many Godzilla shirts and just plain black shirts. And then nice. Congratulations. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much. Arpy, we've already done episodes about that. That was actually our first episode of the show, remember?
Yep.
Let's see.
I wouldn't mind revisiting it someday, but yes.
I do think we should revisit it for sure. Tiffany says, speaking of Linkin Park, Josh Groban did a cover of Ooh, really?
Ooh.
Ooh, I'll have to go listen to that. That's exciting. I love Josh Groban. Oh, you guys are all so sweet. Thank you. So we have a lot of current events to talk about. It's gonna be a few. Ari, where do you want to start with that?
Well, today is pie day. Have you had pie today?
I would love pie, but no, I've not.
3.14. I didn't have like a big slice of pie. I had those like little, you ever get those like pies that like are the little mini pies?
Yeah, I love those.
It was a Boston cream pie, and I had it with a cup of coffee.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, well, it was a cup of espresso, but I had a cup of espresso, and I had like a little Boston cream pie.
What I wouldn't give for a piece of pie right
now.
And
tomorrow is the Ides of March.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
And then on Sunday is St. Patrick's Day.
Are you planning to do any celebrating?
For Ides of March, yes, I'm going to go find somebody and I'm going to go stab them in the back. I don't know.
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, no.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So a judge refuses to throw out documents in Trump case. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Trump was trying to get some like top secret documents that he had like taken and like, take his like box of whatever. And like, he was trying to get these like documents that, he had stolen, thrown out, and the judge was like
the judge was like no,
I don't think so. And it was sort of like he was just it's just Trump ridiculousness. He's just kind of like always trying to do like the most extra things. And so I just signed on to AP Live tonight. It was just this big, massive headline. And it was just like, oh, Trump's up to most ridiculousness again. And just like, I do not care, log off.
It's always a headline.
Always something stupid.
I'm very conflicted about like just the sheer, and of course it's ironic considering we're even talking about him, but the sheer amount of media coverage that is continuously giving him the attention that we know he seeks. Like, it's like this cruel cycle.
It's kind of like Voldemort, isn't it? It's just like he who shall not be named.
like I'm thinking Sauron.
It's just like worse. Like it makes it worse, even just like talking about it, because it's just like ego stroking. It's just like the more you talk about it, the worse that the mud puddle gets,
right. But I also understand like the significance of talking about it, because if we don't, then I feel like
Things happen in the
Everything
dark.
gets swept. Yeah, things always happen in the dark, right?
Right.
There was a SpaceX rocket launch. When was that? Wasn't that a few days ago?
It was yesterday or the day before. But the rocket failed. Like, I don't understand. People were so excited about this rocket and it still failed. And they're like, "Oh yeah, it went up as high as it's ever gone." And it's like, yeah,
Woo!
it still failed. It still did not do well.
The little rocket that could.
Yeah, right. Uh,
So we do have more news on Next Benedict, who was that non-binary teen who died in Oklahoma,
yeah, this makes me really
who
sad to
was
hear
also
about.
bullied. Yeah, a medical examiner ruled that Next Benedict died as a result of suicide.
Yeah.
And let's just say I have my questions. I have questions. Mostly because, I mean, if you look at the reports and everything, the examiner that released this was one that was facilitated via the police of that community. And the family of Next Benedict is actually has sought out resources beyond the city to kind of also hold their own investigation. And I think that, I don't know, like, of
It just
course,
seems extremely biased, in my opinion.
it does seem extremely biased. And of course, the rhetoric I've been seeing on social media, because why should I read social media comments? But I do anyway. Of course, people are like, "Oh, well, these bullies are free then, like they're fine," and it's just like somebody still died. Somebody died.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating that people are so willing to gloss over it, like the slightest thing that comes out. But then again, the voices that are often invalidating it and dismissing it are the anti-LGBTQ plus voices. So, um, any other thing you wanted to add about that, Ari, that I may have missed?
No, I'm just really sad about it that,
Me too.
it's sort of like people are, but there's also like it's just it all seems really suspicious to me, and it's really hard to accept something like that. But maybe they're seeing something that we're not. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
And even if it was a suicide, it's still on the heels of some really heavy bullying. And I think that even if they took him to court, even in a civil case, that they would have a case against those
Yeah.
kids.
And not to mention them, but also the school system itself,
Right.
considering their inaction. I think that it warrants like what's the word I'm thinking of? Transparency. Like it warrants transparency, and I don't think we're getting full transparency. There
Right.
may be things that we're unaware of. Like, it's okay, since there are so many questions, then why not be fully transparent, right? But
Right.
Tiffany says bullies and free should never be used in the same sentence. I agree completely.
Mhm.
100%. A couple other news tidbits that have been going on lately. Well, there is currently a boycott happening against the Kellogg's brand, that's been mounting over the past week on social media,
You
particularly.
told me about this, and I could not believe that
Oh,
why
it's
why this is
wild.
happening. This is crazy. Like, I hate to use the word
So
crazy. It's just wild. It's
it is
wild.
wild. Yeah, wild is my go-to. So for those of you who do not know what happened, so I think it was a week or two ago, there was like this news story or this news interview where somebody was having a conversation with the CEO of Kellogg's, right? And they were talking about, I believe, the cost of living and how like the cost of living has increased, like grocery prices and stuff like that, where there are people who literally cannot afford to have dinner, so on and so forth. And the Kellogg CEO, without skipping a beat, was like, "Oh, I can turn this into a marketable situation right here live on TV." And he proceeded to say, "Well, if they can't afford dinner, then they can always have cereal for dinner. We're here and ready for blah, 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 blah." And of course, the internet got a hold of that, and people were outraged because it also was followed with some sort of commercial that they decided to create and release where like I think it was like Tony the Tiger came into a room where like kids were eating like dinner and then the mom was like, looks like you get the night off, chicken. And then Tony the Tiger is like, cereal for dinner. And then the children shout cereal for dinner. Wild. Like,
could you imagine just like, well, we can't cook anymore, like cereal for dinner, like
it's
what
like, oh,
dystopia do we live in?
like a
Cereal
late
is like,
capitalistic hellscape. It's like, oh, sorry, I am this multi-billionaire. Oh, like you can't afford to eat, so here, buy my $7 box of chemicals to give your children before bed.
sugar bombs before
Like,
bed.
Ari, a team of people got together around a table and planned the commercial, and for some unknown reason, they were like, we think this is a good idea. Let's make a joke of people's
like done something. They could have done something really good, like community outreach, like offered like coupons that people could have that would make it cheaper to buy their product.
Right.
But no, they chose cereal for dinner.
It's like it's very unsettling to me. And so TikTok got a hold of it, and there's like this movement happening on there right now where people are boycotting Kellogg's. Like it's like this huge movement where like there are creators who are like showing people recipes of how to make these cereals without like all the additives and stuff like that. Like you know, people calling politicians and stuff like it's a very and it's been noticed like in their stocks like also kind of plummeting. I went to the store the other day and most of the cereals non-Kellogg's brand had been purchased and Kellogg's was like 50% off or something like that.
That is insane.
So it just goes to show you that social media can be used as a pretty powerful tool to mobilize people.
Well, that's good.
Tiffany says that the CEO could have given away free boxes of cereal. Yes. Oh, and yes, RP, I knew what you meant. You're good. So speaking of social media, the last thing is, I don't know if you all heard, but the House of Representatives passed a measure aiming to ban TikTok, and it is now going to the Senate. And of course, there are a lot of people who are really upset about this. I include myself among those because I actually enjoy TikTok. I don't think it's perfect beyond any stretch of the imagination. I think any social media platform has its issues, but
Ari is a little bit meh about it.
yeah, Ari has a different perspective on TikTok than I do. You're more than welcome to share it. I am just really upset.
I don't think it should. I think that everybody should be allowed to use it, but I'm a little bit meh about TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Well, considering like the way it advertises vigorously, the way its algorithm kind of takes the subtleties and kind of throws them in people's faces, right? Like I think that that's kind of problematic.
And just the way that I just don't like the way that they push an agenda on there, and the way they censor people on TikTok is, it's you play a dangerous game when you're on TikTok. That you're and like the way that you get reported, because I used to go live and stuff, and you can get reported for almost nothing. You just be online and someone just decides that they're going to report you and you'll just get taken down like nothing. You get to a certain level of notoriety and you'll just get taken down like nothing.
Yeah, like there is a lot of susceptibilities on there regarding that.
And so you have to have like alt accounts and stuff and like extra, and like people will just get vicious and they'll just start attacking you if they don't like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched some of what you had to go through on there, and it was ridiculous. And I like on the few instances I've gone live on there, like either you catch the algorithm at a good time and you get everybody who like is supportive of like your stuff, and they're like, yeah, woo, or you catch like all the trolls who are like, you're terrible. I feel like
And
YouTube's
like
algorithm,
and they'll just start mass reporting you and just
yeah,
start
like
taking down your
it
stuff.
is it is easier to go viral on TikTok than it is on YouTube, but I feel like YouTube has more security measures in place to protect you from things like that. Now,
Yeah.
here is my issue with a TikTok ban. I agree with you. I think that like there needs to be more like security measures in place on any social media app. However, TikTok has been used as a huge tool for the progressive movement to mobilize against like social atrocities. And I feel as though that a ban on TikTok will set a very concerning precedent where then the government doing it under the guise of like, oh, national security, like they could literally use that for any social media app, even internal ones, and be like, oh, this is a threat. Let's, censor people. Let's
But
there could be a whole conversation about censorship and how that
but
violates the First
the
Amendment.
downside is that they're still pushing a narrative on TikTok, even though you're still mobilizing on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Certain voices are still getting pushed through the algorithm, and
Yeah.
that you're still being shown curated things, like you're
Yeah.
being curated viewpoints and videos, and so even and sometimes and people's media literacy is not always like able to identify what's real and what's not real. I think we wanted to talk about this in more length
I have
between the
I've
difference
been
between
writing
these
down
two.
video ideas because I feel like I feel like in a general sense we could have more conversations about misinformation and media literacy considering how prevalent it is on social media, right? But suffice it to say, like it's been causing a huge hullabaloo, and I think that like I understand like the concerns and everything like that. I just don't know if a ban is necessarily the right solution to
Right.
the issue, right?
Because
Um,
we're getting into nitty gritty of talking about the actual social media, and like banning the social media network, is it necessary? And I don't know if it's actually necessary. But it comes down to, is China stealing our data?
mhm, right. But then it also comes down to the irony that spaces like Meta and Amazon and stuff have already done that. So it's like our all of our stuff's probably been sold numerous times and we may not even be aware of it, which is kind of existentially dreadful, but that's the technology age that we live in, unfortunately.
It's
All
true.
right.
Have you People steal our data all the time. Did you hear about notifications, that if you have notifications on, your data is being sold to every country in the world?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, like when you have like the little banner that comes down through your notifications, like when your
Mm-hmm.
notifications come up, that information is being sold to every country in the world.
Oh, wow.
That
I don't
information
have those enabled, so
so
phew.
so I it like when you have like a text message come down, and like it comes down through the banner and like the notifications,
Mhm.
that information gets sent to other people.
Wow. So see, I mean, it's worth having the conversation, right? I think it's worth having the conversation. Are we
Mhm.
ready for the mission statement?
Yes, we are at 23 minutes.
All right. We live in a dynamic society where social media shapes us by creating greater opportunities for connection. It has led to a developing understanding of the adversity many marginalized communities face, the powers causing the adversity, and those who act as bystanders as atrocities take place in real time. Our goal with this show is to make connections and have challenging conversations about social topics, current events, pop culture, and art. Together, let's weave the threads of understanding with what privilege we have in order to learn, educate, and create in a world that's growing.
Hmm.
Uh, Perfect. So this has been a topic we wanted to talk about for a long time, like American society and drinking culture. So, Ari, let's start off the conversation. When did you have your first alcoholic drink, and how did that shape you as a person and your attitudes toward alcohol?
So My family was very laissez-faire about alcohol. My mom wanted us, my sisters and I, to grow up and have, um, because my father was an alcoholic. So, my mom wanted us to have kind of a more laid back approach about alcohol. So, I had my first drink when I was 8.
Oh,
I was I
wow.
was I was given alcohol, on New Year's Eve, when I was 8 years old. She said
Mhm.
you could have it was a Mike's Hard Lemonade, and so
Mhm.
I was given alcohol under the supervision of my parents when I was a young child. And they do this in, like, other countries like France and Germany and stuff like that. But my mom told me that she wanted us to be able to experience what alcohol felt like at a young age so that it was not stigmatized, so that we wouldn't feel that rush of, like, when we went off into the adult world, that it was sort of like this, heavily sought after thing, that it was something that was just sort of like part of our social structure, and that we already knew what alcohol felt and tasted like.
Interesting. Hmm. Interesting. Looking back on that now, how do you feel about that?
Um, I think that it actually shaped me as a person who, because I've only ever gotten, like, really super, like, blackout drunk once in my whole life, and I even then I wasn't that heavily that drunk. I've only ever, like, puked, like, maybe, like, 2 or 3 times, like, getting drunk, and that was because I was kind of sick already, like, I kinda had the flu, so, when I was drinking, like, I was already kind of sick, so,
What just
like,
added to it?
one of those times, so I never really, like, enjoyed drinking very much as in my 20s, and so, like, I would drink, but it was never something that I, like, totally enjoyed, and even as I've gotten older, like, it's something that I've never was like, "Oh, yeah, this is, like, the most funnest thing that I've ever done in my whole life," you know what I mean? And I always knew when to stop drinking, and I never got myself into dangerous situations drinking, like some people had. I
Mhm.
always knew when to cut myself off, and I knew when it was safe, and I knew when, like, I just because I knew that it was just, so I think that my mom really taught us, like, that drinking just wasn't that cool and it wasn't that fun, and then
Yeah.
it just shaped me as a person who just never became, like, a full drinker, and I never thought of ever, like, drinking to excess or, like, drinking on my own or, like, the idea of becoming, like, I never was at a threat of becoming an alcoholic because of that.
Right. So, I mean, that's interesting. I would say that my first, well, actually, let me get to the comments first, and then I'll share my experience. RP says, I'm not an alcohol fan. I had a sip of beer once and it tasted like carbonated piss. I don't like beer either. I always say I prefer my bread in a liquid state or a solid state, not a liquid state. Tiffany says, I accidentally took a sip of bourbon and Coke when I was at karaoke with my family years ago. It was disgusting. I spat it right back out and shoved a bunch of mints in my mouth. RP
Uh,
then goes on to say, my parents are from Armenia, and I don't think there's a drinking age there. I mean, it can vary from country to country, right? Um, my first experience drinking was when I was in high school, and I had gone to like a party get together thing, and basically it was kind of like the expectation to drink. So
mhm.
I drank, what was it? Was it a Seagram's?
Oh goodness, the sugary drinks.
It was very sugary, and, I remember, like, I also felt, like, a lot of shame in drinking it because my family so, Cliff Notes version, family history, my parents, before my brother and I were born, they kind of were, like, the party hardy people, and they drank a lot in the '80s, but then the moment we were born, they were like, "Done," and then, we went through various different religious denominations, which were super anti-drinking, so, like, I was a very sheltered soul when it came to, like, drinking and stuff like that, And when I went to college eventually, I had a stint where I was kind of unhinged with it. And then I quickly learned that no, that no, basically, that I shouldn't be hinged. But it was a very interesting experience.
Now,
I
when you say unhinged, do you mean like that you drank to excess like a lot, like every night?
not like every night, but like my issue is that I don't like losing command of my faculties, and there were a few instances where I lost command of my faculties.
Like you were blackout drunk?
Like completely. Like I literally remember I have a memory waking up in a friend's apartment in my underwear cuddling a chair underneath the kitchen table.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
so like that like and I couldn't remember anything, and that scared the hell out of me, and I was just like, "Oh my god," like now like fast forward to now, like I feel like I'm a little bit more open-minded about it, mostly because I am a measured human being, right?
Mhm.
And I have my mental health, like I'm monitoring my mental health and everything like that, and I know where my limits are. So like I'll have a drink every once in a while and everything like that, like going out to dinner or something, but nothing extravagant. Um, so I
I
mean,
had I had 3 glasses of wine the other day because I was killing off a bottle. And
yes.
I got very tipsy the other day, and I was like, "Woo, this is, like, crazy for me." And then, the last time I had gotten drunk before that was on, my birthday. I had I think I had 3 glasses of wine that day too, which was a $100 bottle of wine that I bought at the country club. Um, People were really mean to me too.
What is there's nothing more American than drinking at a country club.
Because I went to this really fancy country club and I bought this like wood fire mushroom, like fungi mushroom pizza. And so I was sitting there reading Britney Spears's biography, eating this fungi pizza, drinking this $100 bottle of wine, just living my best life. And people were just being ridiculous there,
Oh.
trying to get my attention. But I got very drunk. And I
It,
was like,
Ari.
I took, you know, I sobered up enough that I was able to drive, because it was only like 2 glasses of wine or something. It was like, and I only had to drive like maybe like a mile or so to my hotel room, but because and I had food, so I was like, I was sober enough to drive. So I drove to my hotel room and then I finished off the bottle, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Ari, I don't think I've heard anything more patriotic than going
I,
to a
I
country club,
Oh, it
eating a
was snowing.
mushroom
It was snowing
pizza.
too, by the way. Snowing too, by the way, and there was snow was coming down, and it was over the lake.
The image of you going to a country club, drinking a bottle of $100 wine, having like a stone cooked pizza, and then
Yeah.
reading Britney Spears all at the same time. A beautiful spectacle.
Listening to old rich white people talk about their John Grisham novels.
Oh my god. So I mean, if we talk about like America and drinking culture and the way we kind of contextualize it, we do contextualize it with like violence through the way we use our words, like
Shot,
taking a shot.
loaded, wasted.
When
We use
thinking
them. We use
about
them like guns, don't we? Do when you take a shot and then you get loaded and then you get wasted, like we're being blown away by alcohol. It's true.
I keep just in my head, I'm like, America.
America.
Guns and beer.
Guns and beer.
It makes me think of growing
Or
up.
guns and whiskey.
And
Guns and
Guns
whiskey.
and was there. Yeah, that's more accurate, I would say, right? Um, so when you think of this language in conjunction with how we've been had an overabundance of like gun violence in this country, do you think they're correlated in some way? Do you think they're like like glamorized, like, or exoticized, or kind of painted as like this forbidden pastime to people.
What do you think?
I do think that they're very much correlated. So I think that drinking is very much connected with gun culture, but I also think it's very much connected with like automobile culture, like
It
vehicle
really
culture.
It really is. But like because you get behind a because people like associate drinking and driving when you get loaded and then you get behind a wheel and then you're like a loaded gun, like ready to fire off, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, because you're dangerous and you can be unhinged and stuff like that too, right? So but I think there is like in media like a certain degree of like glamorizing of it too, which I feel like causes it's kind of meant to be like ha ha ha, but it's also concerning. Like I think like if you see like the utter frequency of it, it can be kind of construed as concerning,
But
right?
but they talk about this as like in the form of like a tragedy in three parts that you like drink, you drive, and then you kill somebody because you've gotten loaded. But it's almost like it's an inevitability, like that you
Mm-hmm.
are going to drink and drive. And it's like I that's the thing that I don't understand is like why do they show people drinking and driving? That's the thing is like why do you show people drinking and driving in the first place, even in these like tragedies and stuff? Like why do you show people getting behind the wheel of a car even in like these like PSAs of like just don't show them drinking and driving.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, absolutely. And honestly, it all comes back down to consumerism,
I know.
really. Like that glamorization, that consumerism, I think are very much intertwined because it's designed to, well, make money. It's
Yeah.
designed for like the capitalistic perspective, unfortunately. Um, what's the next thing? Holidays, right?
Holidays, yes. St. Patrick's Day, which is people use as an excuse to get drunk. Isn't it? Isn't it just an excuse? And they always contextualize the Irish as people who are just alcoholics. And I read this article that said that Irish people drink because there's like shame involved and like they cover up mental health issues and stuff, and
Mhm.
that like 54% of Irish people do drink, but it's because they're using it as like a form of numbing themselves or like shaming them. Like it's not like it's because it's like this big celebratory of like oh we're going to like have
Mhm.
this like big party and stuff like that. It's because they're going to the pub to like you know
Right. It's interesting because also, I mean, if we look at other communities and cultures too, like the indigenous communities, like especially those communities on reservations, for example, like there are very high percentages of alcoholism because of either like the poverty or lack of access to resources, or that shame, coping with like systemic racism, etc., right? And I think that, I think that it's very much tied to like these systemic things that we see, like
It's just a shameful stereotype. Could you imagine, like, having, like, a Native American, like, Heritage Month or something, and then, like, bringing, like, a case of beer and being like, "Hey, it's Native American Month, let's drink."
mhm,
Like, could you
right.
imagine, like, for any other, like, social group or, like, class, like, being like, "Because they drink, we should drink." Like, could
I
you
think,
imagine, like, just,
yeah,
like,
kind of
the
like people
amount of,
making
like
jest out of it.
yeah, like, making it into a joke or something, like, that maybe not, like, joke about, like, how they drink so much because,
Mhm.
that's a systemic problem that, you know, Irish people yes, Irish people are drinking, but, like, maybe not, like, make a joke out of it because, like, that's not such a fun thing, like, you know, if they're drinking as a culture, maybe that's not such a good thing, and, like, I don't
Mhm.
know, like, maybe that's not such a healthy thing for a culture to be drinking all the time, and, like, we wouldn't have like a French, history where, we all get bombed off of like several bottles of wine all the time and like, get trashed off of like, a whole keg of
Mhm.
wine or something. We might have a glass of wine or something maybe, but like we wouldn't be like, hey, let's get, or like, and the way that we do it is like green beer and like, or like some kind of like weird bastardization of it. You know what I mean?
Right. It's interesting. Like, here's a thought that I just thought of. Especially in our culture, I almost feel like drinking and getting drunk sometimes is considered a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes, like, I just remember in high school there was like this immense glamorization of it where people would treat it as though like it was a rite of passage, like you demonstrate your manhood through drinking, you blah, and I remember, and we'll be talking a little bit about this in a little bit, but like I just remember peer pressure being like a significant influencer on that, where like other people were being peer pressured into drinking, and it kind of just spiraled from there, right?
Well, I saw this one video that was like, it was this YouTuber, or she's like a TikToker or a YouTuber. It was a YouTube short that I watched, and it said the caption was POV Thursday night in 2006. And so it shows this girl wearing like 2006 attire. She's got like the double polo shirt that's like popped, and she's got like makeup that looks like she's from 2006. She's got the like foundation lipstick on,
Oh
like where
no.
her lips are like that, and she's leaning over and she's got a bottle of Fireball in the
Oh,
window,
Fireball.
and
Oh.
she's leaning in and she's like, hey, we're gonna go hang out in the parking lot and we're gonna go do drinks and stuff. She says, did you go get some Hypnotic? We're gonna go get some Hypnotic, but did you need to go get some like did you need to get some Gold Frog Gold Frogger? you, you remember Gold Frogger? Gold
How could one forget?
the with the little gold flakes. She's like, we're gonna go hang
Oh.
out in the parking lot. And we're gonna go drink. And that one part of the parking lot where the cops don't go. She's like, we're gonna go hang out. And she says, did you? And she's like, got her little flippy phone. She's like, and we're gonna we're gonna go stand around in the circle in the parking lot. Just make sure did you call Jason? Make sure you call Jason because he's got the good stuff. It was like, I was like, if that's not the most high school experience
That
ever.
sounded like 2006 in a nutshell. Do you remember like flippy phones? I kind of miss
Oh
them
my god. And we
sometimes.
would we would sit around and we would smoke cigarettes. And I was always my first pack of cigarettes that I ever smoked in high school was Marlboro menthol light 100s in a box, and they were like the most disgusting cigarettes I've ever smoked in my entire life. But we would sit around in the mall parking lot, and we would just smoke those cigarettes, and they were just the most disgusting cigarettes I've ever smoked in my entire life.
But we did
And
that because it made us feel like we belonged.
I know.
Oh, no, I remember that all too well too. I only smoked a couple of times in my life, but like I do distinctly remember like doing it because I was peer pressured into doing it. I want to check out the comments really quickly because we haven't looked at them for a few. RP says, once a lady whose daughter was seriously injured by a drunk driver came to my high school to speak. Wow. Yeah, a lot of
Nice.
people have had losses as a result of that.
That's
Tiffany
good though.
says, yeah. Tiffany says, some people have tried to pressure me into drinking, but I've always said no. I'm glad that you established your boundaries. That's extremely important to do.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Tiffany says, I had a friend whom I told that I don't drink, and she said that she was going to get me to drink wine, and I said nope, and it pissed me off, honestly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
don't let
not.
somebody peer pressure you into drinking. You don't need to drink.
Yeah, peer
You don't need
pressure
to drink
is
to have a good time.
peer pressure is not acceptable at all whatsoever. Um, we can just kind of like move a little bit forward to the peer pressure bit and then backtrack on the other questions that we had. But
Sure, yeah.
since we're really focused on peer pressure right now, I remember I mean, I've had conversations about what it was like for me to come out in college and how it was very interesting navigating like college gay spaces, which were very much like synonymous with like partying, like our entry into these spaces involved like partying and drinking and stuff like that. And
It's true.
I often remember being shamed for not drinking. I often remember being excluded and like not invited to things because I was the prude,
Oh my
because I didn't want to, because like I would go and have a good time, but I didn't want to drink or get drunk. And it got to the point where like it started like really impacting my mental health, because it's like, okay, I don't want to give into this peer pressure, but
Did you ever
eventually.
have go to bar like faux drinks that you would like hold on to like make
Oh,
it seem like you were drinking?
all the time. Yep, I would do that. I would always get like something with like Sprite with grenadine in it to make it look like it was like a.
Oh, like a Shirley Temple?
Yeah, like I would always get one of those to pretend like, oh, it's a vodka cranberry or something. Um,
So what I would do is I would get one drink and I would hold on to that one drink and like even though the drink was empty, sometimes I would just hold on to it for a lot longer. Like I would suck and chew all of the ice until it was completely empty before getting another drink because I was just like I do not want to drink as fast as all of these other people are drinking.
mhm.
So like even though I was drinking with them, I would drink as slow as humanly possible and be like, they'll be like, "Are you want another one yet?" And I'd be like, I just
Yeah.
wait a few minutes and like
Uh,
take
I'm
my
pacing myself. That's what I always say.
I'll take as slow as possible and I would drink like I would literally just chew all of the ice in my drink and like, you know, and like
So
not drink as it.
relatable.
And people will be like, "Well, we're doing shots." And I'll be like, "Oh, I don't really feel like shots. I don't really want to do shots."
Oh, and they were always the worst shots too. No, like I remember, I almost remember just feeling like being a sober person in a space like that. Often felt overwhelmed because it felt like everything would get so unhinged and out of control. And I
Yeah.
don't know if I had like sensory issues or what, but it became like so overwhelming for me. But there was a point in college where I started giving into that peer pressure. And even after college, I started doing that too. Like one of my exes from like a decade ago, um, basically held drinking and smoking over my head. Where like if I didn't do those things with him, that I really wouldn't be worth his time.
Oh
So
my
like I
goodness.
often will say that I often, and I think I've said this on the show before, 2013 was like I was a riot that year because I was drinking constantly, I was smoking constantly, and I did it to win the affections of someone else.
I think that was about my 2013 too. It was hanging
why
out with
why was our
roommates.
2013s terrible?
It was just terrible year. It's just totally depressed and just like smoking a lot because my roommate was a dealer.
Yeah, but just the
Um,
wild things that we went navigated,
I
right?
just hated it. I was in Iowa. I hated Iowa. Iowa sucked.
So, do you ever drink? I mean, we kind of already talked about this.
Well, when I got peer pressured in college, because I can drink. Like that's the
Mhm.
thing. The thing it's not a matter of if I can drink because I can drink and I can hold
Oh,
my own
same.
when I drink.
Yeah.
Like because I drank in 2020. I I think it was I went to God. I don't know if I don't remember what it was 20 or 2021. I drank a lot at the bar, like just the last few years, and I had to have my parents pick me up, and they were so mad that they had to pick me up. Um, but uh, there was a band that played, and I got dressed up, and I got really really drunk, like because I did say not say no to say no to shots, and
Mhm.
I definitely got drunk that night. But that was like the first time I'd really, you know, because I was drinking with the band, and that's something that
Oh,
I
you were
don't
being a
say.
groupie?
I was being a groupie. But I don't usually do stuff like that. I don't usually say yes to that sort of thing. And it
Mhm.
definitely was a bipolar. I definitely was feeling manic that night, um, where I was just like out of control and just like, well, I'm gonna take another shot, take another shot, take another shot, take another, and it definitely was feeling peer pressured that night
Yeah.
to drink as much as possible. Um, and more recently, if I drink that much, it's I can't take my medication, which definitely throws me in a loop. But even in college, like you know, I was part of what's called House of Monroe, um, and they had a whole liquor cabinet that was floor to ceiling, like a regular closet that was stocked full of alcohol. And
Mhm.
any given night of the week, they were drinking. If you went over that house, you recognized they were probably going to get trashed that night.
Mhm.
So if you were over at that house, you had to recognize that you were probably, if you were going to stay, they were either smoking weed or they were drinking. And
Yeah.
so, you had to recognize that you were either going to end up either high or drunk that night if you
Mhm.
were over that house, if you were going to stay.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
you were either passing or getting a second, contact high, or you were,
Yeah.
um, and
Were
so
you ever shamed for not partaking?
um, sometimes, but they try not to make it such a big deal. But sometimes you just I wouldn't get invited over. You had to just come over.
Mhm.
Um, but it was such a huge deal to not do it, like, because everybody else was doing it, and, like,
Yeah.
it's such a group culture of, like, everybody doing it all at once. So it was sort of like the amount of pressure to do it, like, with everybody else was so immense.
You wouldn't wanna be like the visible sticking out like a sore thumb, like the, "Oh, that person not doing it," right? No,
Right.
I really relate with that 100%. Yeah.
Because it was just the amount of, like, judgment of, like, "Why aren't you like the rest of us? Like, what makes you
Mhm.
so special?" And it's just like, kind of like, "Oh, are you a prude kind of person?"
Yeah.
You know?
Um, it can be kinda scary, being in situations like that too, because that peer
Mhm.
pressure is such a powerful thing to have to navigate through.
Yeah.
Um, so like, in our society, why do we consider some drugs as not as bad, such as alcohol and other things, and others more stigmatized? Like
So why do we consider things like weed and cocaine bad, but we don't consider, like, alcohol not as bad? Or, like, some things like alcohol or, like, coffee or, like, chocolate or those things are not as bad, but, like, weed and cocaine, those are, like, and the really thing it comes down to is, like, that our government, because cocaine at one point wasn't illegal, in the early 1900s.
mhm,
It was part of our normal American culture. But I've been noticing a lot of people have been talking about cocaine as like nonchalantly, and that's such a wild thing to me that because it's such a stigmatized thing, and like I'm seeing that a lot of people are trying to like destigmatize cocaine, and I'm just like, you know,
oh,
it's so weird to me, like, people are talking about it in like, online and stuff, they're making jokes about, like, cocaine and, like, such a because weed's becoming, like, so normalized, so they're trying to, like, normalize cocaine now, and I'm like, that's, like, a drug that's, like, an illegal drug, right?
mhm.
But they're, like, trying to, like, make it, like, not as
They're trying to
stigmatized.
shift the narrative. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that the reason why alcohol, has not been more stigmatized is because it's all tied back to capitalism, right? Like, the more alcohol is stigmatized, how is that going to sell?
Well, and did you know that there's also, that there's, like, kind of like a weird lesser form of caffeine that you can snort like cocaine. There's like a
What?
thing I because I'm such a weird person. Like I see all these like things. No, I'm not that weird, but like sometimes I like see things online. Not that I'm like doing cocaine or anything, but like this. But like I've just like noticed all of these things about cocaine and stuff on in our culture, and like I'm just noticing like how people are talking about cocaine and stuff like that, and I'm just like
Mhm.
noticing like how people are treating the use of like cocaine in our culture. Um, Not that I want to do cocaine or anything like that. That it actually like terrifies me the idea of it. But like um people are doing like powdered caffeine like cocaine.
Wow.
And I was just like, what okay. And I was
Well, I
just
mean,
like,
yeah.
why and that's why I'm saying like they're trying to destigmatize cocaine in our culture. And it's such a weird I know this is like such a like a cliff like a sub note about our podcast. But it's just like why is that a thing that's happening in our culture right now? But as you
Mhm.
notice that this is like something that's really happening is that like because if you start to notice it, you'll start to see that like people are nonchalantly talking about cocaine in our culture. Like people just like nonchalantly dropping the fact, like they're just like cracking jokes or like just making references to the fact that like they're trying to like destigmatize cocaine. And just
Mhm.
like if you just like notice it, like it's in songs and it's just like references and like whatever that people are just like trying to like sneak that into our culture that like that either they do or like that they are
Mhm.
cool with or like whatever like with cocaine, and that like makes me very uncomfortable in so many ways.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I've noticed that too, especially in like music and media as well. Like it's like it manifests itself in a variety of different ways.
Because weed is one thing because that's like something that like has been like destigmatized, but like and like that's like but they're working on trying to destigmatize cocaine and like make it possibly like legal, I suppose.
Mhm.
I guess that's like the venture that they're pushing towards maybe.
Interesting. I mean, it's possible. I mean, notice though, like thinking about weed, like I mean, of course, weed, like you said, has become destigmatized, but like it's also become commercialized in a whole variety of different ways too.
Right.
Which, like, I just think that there is like this like there's this juxtaposition of like destigmatizing and like the commercialization of something. Like it's an interesting. Oh, hi, Larity. Larity's like, do I want to be in the video? I
Oh
love
no,
it.
he's just
Larity, I love that he just stands on you.
yeah. Sorry, he was getting into places that he shouldn't be, so I had to take him down.
Look, he's so cute. He's so cute. He's just loafing on you. Just
I'm
loafing
sorry, I
around.
had to bring up the conversation because we were just talking about things that were just like really heavy.
Well, and we're
Um,
nearing the end anyway. So how like I guess let's share some advice. Like how is it possible to navigate beyond peer pressure?
the thing about it is with peer pressure, if people are pressuring you into doing stuff that you don't want to do, such as doing like alcohol, like drinking alcohol, and like you do not want to drink, do you really want to be around those people anyway? Like, are
Mhm.
they really quality people if they are forcing you into drinking when you don't really want to?
Yeah. Yeah. I like if I could go back in time to my younger self in college and be like, "Hey, it's okay to not be around this group of people even though they're doing their damnedest to make you feel invalidated for not drinking. Like it's okay to not be around those people, right?
Right.
Because most of those people I no longer even talk to, have no association with anymore. And I think that like in those very crucial times, like we just want to belong so badly that we're willing to compromise anything in order to do so. Now, like another thing that I had to work through is like I kind of had gotten so resentful over being peer pressured that then I started as I grew up and got older, I started shaming people who chose to drink or smoke weed. And I think that there's like an in between. Like I think like if I could go back in time and tell younger Donnie, I'd be like, hey, It's okay if people choose to do what they want to do, right? You don't
Right.
have to do it, but by all means, don't weaponize your not wanting to do it against other people as well, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like don't push. It's like don't people shouldn't push their agendas on other people. Like if you don't want to do it, that's all right. If you do want to do it, that's all right, but don't push your agenda on other people.
Exactly. Like, so like I went so many years just being very resentful of it. And then I went through a phase where I was like, oh, because I didn't drink, I lost so many life experience building things. But now I'm at this point in my mid 30s where I'm like, you know what? If I want to go out and have a glass of wine, I'm fine. I can do that. And I feel great having fun with like the other people in my life. And that's fine, right? No big
Yeah.
deal. How do
But I
you feel?
don't generally drink anymore.
I don't drink super often anymore either. Honestly, with how bad I get heartburn at this age in my life, I have to be like, do I want to do I want to take a shot of Pepto after this shot that I'm about to have? Like, nothing better than a good old Pepto shot.
I'll just stick with my sparkling water with fruit in it.
Let's cheers to that. I have my tea. Clink.
But
Mm. But really, though, I do think I feel like there's so much we could talk about this that we'll probably do um,
part, part two.
another part
Yeah.
two to this. So, because I think that it's worth the conversation. So, any parting words for the evening?
Live your best life, whatever that means. Alcohol, drug free.
Live, laugh, love.
Live, laugh, love.
Live,
Live,
laugh,
laugh,
love.
love.
I don't know what the choreography is, but
Is it
we
live,
all
laugh, love? Live, laugh, love.
live, laugh, love. Or should it be love? Um, just know that we love you all. Tune in again for our next episode next Thursday. Go like the video. Of course, subscribe to our channels. My channel is this one. My poetry channel is Donny Speaks. Go subscribe to Ari's channels, Strange Nothings, Tarot Time with Ari, and Boocha Baby.
Hoochie
Um,
baby.
we love you, and we hope that you have a good rest of your day. Bye.